Okay, so this is number 4 on page 110, and even though it says order each set of numbers from least to greatest and use a different method for each part, I'm just going to focus on using benchmarks for this. And I'm going to do questions A and B, but focusing on using benchmarks. So I have in the first question 2 1/4, 11 over 6, 8 over 3, and 2. Well, the very first thing we need to do is let's change all of our improper fractions to mixed fractions. We do that by dividing our denominator into our numerator. So 6 goes into 11 one full time, and then we get a remainder of 5. So 11 over 6 is the exact same thing. I'm just going to rewrite this as saying 1 full and then 5 out of the 6. So 5, 6. 8 over 3 is improper. So let's change that to a mixed number. Improper fraction again is if the numerator, which is the top number, is bigger than the denominator. So 3 into 8 goes 2 full times now. So our whole number is 2. And then 2 times 3 is 6. And I still have 2 left. So it's like I ate 2 full pizzas, but I have 2 pieces left out of the 3. And then my last number is 2. So now this is a little bit easier to see when we actually label our number line, because I know I want us to always start at 0 and then 1. I know I have at least 2, but I actually have more than 2 pizzas here. If you want to think, for some odd reasons, pizzas always make sense to students. So I'm going to continue to use pizzas. So I have more than 2 pizzas in this one, in this example in here. So I know I have to put at least 3 on my number line. So now we're going to use benchmarks. This is in fraction form, so I know the fractions that I know are 1/2, 1 1/2, and 2 1/2. I'm going to use those as benchmarks. You don't have to put these questions on exactly, or those fractions on exactly. We're going to use these as our benchmarks just to see which ones are greater, or sorry, which ones are the smallest values, because we're going to go in from least to greatest. So which one is smallest and which one is greatest. Okay, so the easiest one to do is 2, because that goes right on an integer. Okay, so that's 2. So we're done with that. So remember, one of the methods that I taught you guys is just highlighting, not crossing out, because then it's tough to see if we ever want to go back and check. So let's start with 2 1/4. My denominator is 4 here, but here my denominator is 2. So in order to help us find where this fraction is, I have to make this 2 1/2 with a denominator of 4. So hopefully you will know that another way of writing 2 1/2 is actually 2 2/4. When we do that, like remember, those are equivalent fractions. When we do that, now I know that I have 2 full ones, and this would be 0 out of 4, right? If I actually wrote it as a mixed fraction, because I have 2 full and then none left over. So 2 1/4 would actually be perfectly right in between the numerators of 0 and 2. So now I'm going to erase this, because I'm just going to kind of write stuff down and then erase them. Okay, so actually 2 1/4 is right in between 2 and 2 1/2, because when I write it as with the lowest common denominator of 4, I get 2 0 over 4 here, and 2 2 over 4 over here. So 2 1 over 4 must be exactly halfway in between those two. Okay, so now we're going to erase this, because now I have this one. So get your highlighter out, and we're done with that one. Okay, let's go back. Now 1 5/6. So 1 5/6, I know if I start at 0, I know I have 1 whole. And then I know a portion of the way to 2. It's not quite 2, but I'm going a portion of the way. So now I have a denominator of 6. So I have to write, I don't know where 5/6 is. The only way I can tell is that if I write them with the same denominator. So this would be 1 and 0 out of 6. And this would be 1 and 3 over 6 because 3 is half of 6. So I know that this is 1 and 0 over 6. I know that this is 1 and 3 over 6. I know that that's 2. So 1 and 5 over 6 well, has to be closer to 2 than to 3. Sorry, 2 fulls as opposed to 1 and 3/6. So I'm going to put 1 and 5/6 there. Okay. And again, I am going to erase that because I just use them as guides. And I know that it's just closer to 2 than to 1 and 3/6. It does not have to be exact. I get my highlighter out and I know I'm done with that one. 2 and 2/3. So I know I'm going 2 full and in a portion to 3. I just don't know where it is. Now this is a tricky one because I have an odd number in my denominator. I have 3. So this here, since I'm going to write my fraction, let's do it in red. So if I want to write this one with a denominator of 3, I'm going to do it as 2 and 0 out of 3. Okay? If I want to write this as a denominator of 3, it's not very, I don't know, proper to put a fraction or a decimal in a fraction, but we're just going to use it. So half of 3 is 1.5. Again, we're just going to use it as like one of our little tools in our toolbox. And then we're just going to erase it because that putting a decimal in a fraction is not very proper at all. Now I know that between like 2 and 2/3 is definitely not in here. It would definitely be somewhere over here. Okay, actually, I'm going to just erase that. I'm going to say it would be even closer. I would say it's about right here. Okay, because 2 is pretty close to 1/3, or 1.5. So again, I'm just going to erase this because I just used it as a tool, and now I'm going to throw it away. Okay, so I know that 2 and 2/3 is about there, just over 2 and 1/2, just past it. So now I can write these in smallest to greatest, because the first fraction, or the fraction closest to 0, is going to be your smallest one. So now remember, we have to write them in the way, or in the form that came in the question. Whoops, and I just did it wrong. Let me just say 1 and 5/6 was not one of my original. So 1 and 5/6 actually is the mixed fraction of my improper form, 11 over 6. Let's put a check mark over there. Then the next one was 2. That one was actually one of our original numbers. And then the next one is 2 and 1/4, and that was in the original form. I'm going to put 2 and 1/4 next. And then my greatest value is 2 and 2/3, but that wasn't the form that it originally came in, and that was 8/3. Okay, so that's one way using benchmarks in order to arrange these numbers from least to greatest. I'm going to take you through another example. Same thing, page 110, and it's going to be 4b now. I'm just going to arrange these a little bit so I have a little bit of room there. So I have 3.5, 23 over 8, and 1 and 3/4. I don't like this in proper form, so I'm going to change it to mixed. So 8 goes into 23, 2 full times, and 2 times 8 is 16, and I get 7/8. So it goes in 2 full times, so I'm just going to write the 3 over 5 here. And then, 23 over 8 is 2 full times, and then I have 7 of my 8 pieces left of my pizza. And 1 3/4 is already in mixed form. It's just a little bit easier to see how to label my number line. So I have to label it from 0 to 1 and 2 and 3. And I know one of my numbers is 3.5, so I need at least 4 on this number line. Okay? Well, 3.5 is an easy one because that's actually one of my benchmarks. 3.5 and 3 1/2 are the exact same number. So 3.5 goes right there. Another benchmark is 2 1/2. Another benchmark is 1 1/2. We know those. And another benchmark here is 1/2. So let's put in our benchmarks. So now I have 2 7/8 that I want to try put this in here. So I need to make sure that 2 7/8 has, one of these benchmarks has a denominator of 8. So since I know 2 7/8 is somewhere in this section, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change this benchmark to a denominator of 8. So instead of 2 1/2, I can write it as 2 4/8. Well, I know 7 is quite far away from 4. So I'm thinking that it's closer to 3. And again, we don't have to be exact. It's just closer to 3 than it is to the half. So we're going to erase this now because we just used it as a tool. Okay. And we're going to label 2 7/8 over here. We just know it's closer to 3 than it is to 2 1/2. Now 1 3/4 we know is in this section right here. It's in between 1 and 2. Well, whereabouts is it? Okay, well let's just change this. Erase that. Again, I have a denominator of 4 here. So I'm going to change this benchmark to a denominator of 4, which is 1 2/4. Well, I know that 3/4 would be exactly halfway between 1 2/4 and 2. So I'm going to erase this. Like I said, I just used it as a tool. And I'm going to erase it, and I'm going to label 1 3/4 here. Okay, so actually we should put dots. I didn't put them on the first one, but we should put dots there. Now the question says write it from lowest to greatest. So our lowest number is the one that's closest to 0, and that is 1 3/4. Once again, we look at the original forms. Did it come in mixed fraction, in improper, or in decimal form? So 1 3/4 is my smallest value. My next one is 2 7/8, but it didn't come in that form. But I know that 23/8 is the exact same thing as 2 7/8, just written in a different form. It's written in improper form as opposed to mixed, so I put that one next. And 3.5 is my greatest value, and that's the form it came in. It was in decimal form. So there's my answer. I sure hope this helped. If not, please let me know, and have a great day.